Listen to what happened on Father's Day that changed my entire relationship with my daughter forever. Before we continue, please subscribe to the channel and let me know in the comments where you're listening from. I'm William Carr, 66 years old, married to Jessica for 38 years, and father to Samantha, our only daughter. For 3 decades, I believed I was being a good father by supporting my child through every crisis. I was wrong, dead wrong, and it took a live snake delivered to my doorstep to finally open my eyes. It started 6 days before that horrifying Father's Day morning. Samantha stormed into our living room with her husband Peter, her face flushed with anger and entitlement. The coffee cup she was holding shattered on our hardwood floor, brown liquid spreading across the Persian rug Jessica and I had bought for our 20th anniversary. Dad, do you even understand that I need the money now, not after you die? Her voice was sharp, cutting through the comfortable silence of our Sunday afternoon. I gripped the inheritance documents tighter in my hands. 30 years of careful planning, of 12-hour workdays and missed family dinners. Also, I could leave my daughter financially secure. And here she was, demanding it all while I was still breathing. Samantha, I'm not an ATM machine. You'll get your inheritance when the time comes. My voice was steady, but inside I felt something cracking. Peter lounged deeper into our leather sofa, that infuriating smirk spreading across his face. Come on, Will. She's your only daughter. What's a few $1,000s to help us out? A few thousand. The words were laughable. Last month it was gambling debts. The month before, Samantha's shopping sprees at designer stores. Before that, emergency car repairs that somehow cost 3 times what any mechanic would charge. The requests never stopped, only grew bolder, more demanding, more aggressive. Help you out? I stood slowly, my old knees protesting. I've helped you out for 3 years running. My retirement fund isn't your personal banking account. Jessica appeared in the doorway, dish towel twisted anxiously in her hands. Please, everyone, just calm down. We can talk about this reasonably. But Samantha wasn't interested in reasonable. Reasonably? He's sitting on hundreds of thousands of dollars while we're drowning in debt. Debt you created, I said quietly. Debt from your choices. Your gambling, your spending, your complete inability to live within your means. The family photo on the mantel had fallen face down during Samantha's tantrum. I wondered if that was symbolic somehow. Our happy family, now just an empty frame reflecting nothing back at us. Peter shifted forward, his tone turning nasty. Look, old man, you're not getting any younger. Why not enjoy sharing your wealth while you're alive to see it appreciated? Old man. The disrespect burned in my throat. This from someone who'd never held a steady job in the 5 years he'd been married to my daughter. Someone who lived off credit cards and my occasional generosity. Because I worked 43 years for that money. Each word came out harder than the last. 43 years of overtime shifts, missed birthdays, canceled vacations. So you could have a comfortable childhood, Samantha. So your mother and I could retire with dignity. What dignity? Samantha laughed harshly. What's dignified about hoarding money while your daughter suffers? I looked at her designer handbag, her fresh salon highlights, her expensive jewelry, Peter's brand new sneakers. Their suffering looked remarkably comfortable from where I stood. Your suffering is self-inflicted. The words escaped before I could stop them. Every crisis, every emergency, every desperate plea for money, you created them all yourself. The silence stretched tight. Jessica stepped fully into the room, her face pale with worry. William, maybe we should. Should what? Samantha's voice cracked like breaking glass. Should keep enabling your selfishness? Should keep pretending you're a loving father instead of a greedy miser? Get out. The words came from somewhere deep in my chest. Both of you, get out of my house. Your house? Samantha's eyes glittered dangerously. This house that Mom helped pay for? This house where I grew up? You can't just kick out your own daughter. Watch me. I walked to the front door and opened it wide. Cool evening air rushed in, carrying the scent of honeysuckle and the distant sound of neighbors' laughter. Normal families having normal conversations. Samantha, take your husband and leave. Don't come back until you're ready to have a respectful conversation about your financial problems and your own solutions that don't involve my wallet. You'll regret this. She grabbed her purse, her voice dropping to a venomous hiss. When you're old and sick and need someone to take care of you, remember this moment. Remember how you chose money over family. The door slammed hard enough to rattle the windows. In the silence that followed, I stood frozen, wondering if I'd just made the biggest mistake of my life. I had no idea that the real nightmare was still 6 days away. That next week passed in tense silence. No calls from Samantha, no texts, no surprise visits. The quiet felt unnatural, almost ominous. Usually within 3 days she'd call with apologies and smaller requests, testing the waters before launching into her next major plea for money. Father's Day morning arrived sunny and peaceful. I sat on our front porch with the Sunday paper and coffee, trying to find normalcy in routine. Neighbors were emerging for weekend activities. The Hendersons loading their car for a family outing, the Patels working in their garden. Then I heard the rumble of a delivery truck. Strange for a Sunday, unless someone paid extra for weekend service. The UPS driver approached with a medium-sized box. "William Carr? Happy Father's Day, sir. Someone must think highly of you to pay for Sunday delivery." I signed for it, studying the shipping label as he drove away. No return address, just generic shipping information. The box felt surprisingly light, maybe 2 pounds at most. "Who's that from?" Jessica called from inside. "No idea." I carried the package to our coffee table, the same spot where inheritance documents had scattered 6 days earlier. Jessica approached, examining the box with suspicion. "William," she said slowly, "don't open it." "Why?" She pointed to something I'd completely missed. "Can't you see the holes? They're for breathing, which means something alive is inside." My stomach dropped. Now that she'd pointed them out, I could see tiny punctures in the cardboard, barely visible unless you knew to look. Breathing holes for something living. From inside the box came the faintest rustling sound. Then we both heard it clearly. A soft, unmistakable hissing that made us freeze in place. "Call someone. Now." Jessica's fingernails dug into my arm, through my shirt. My hands shook as I dialed 911. "We have a suspicious package delivered this morning with something alive inside. It's making hissing sounds. Sir, maintain a safe distance. Officers are dispatched to your location. Do not attempt to open the package." Those 10 minutes waiting for police felt like hours. The hissing came again, longer this time. Something was definitely awake and moving in that box. Officer Reeves arrived with professional efficiency, followed 20 minutes later by Mike Johnson from Animal Control. Mike worked carefully, using proper equipment to open the box safely. Inside was a 3-foot corn snake, very much alive and increasingly agitated. "Beautiful specimen," Mike said, securing it in a carrier. "Someone paid good money for this one. Shame they used it for whatever this was." After they left with the snake, Jessica and I stood in our violated living room, and that's when the pieces started clicking together in my mind. The timing. Father's Day wasn't coincidental. The anonymous sender who knew our address and schedule. Someone angry about our recent argument. Someone with access to resources and planning capability. And then I remembered. Last month's credit card statement. Reptile Palace, $127.50. Samantha used my card for emergencies. I'd assumed it was something for the grandchildren. I called her number, my heart pounding. "Dad." Her voice was artificially bright. "How's your Father's Day going?" "Interesting morning, actually." "Samantha, you wouldn't happen to know anything about a strange Father's Day gift?" "No, Dad, what happened?" But her response came too quickly, too rehearsed. And then I heard it. In the background, unmistakably, Peter's quiet laughter. Not surprised laughter, but satisfied amusement. The sound of someone who thought they'd gotten away with something clever. All doubt vanished. My daughter had sent me a snake. "Just some confusion with delivery," I said, fighting to keep my voice steady. "Nothing important." I hung up and stood there holding the phone, feeling 30 years of parental love colliding with the reality of who my daughter had become. That evening, I sat in my home office and made the hardest decisions of my life. I logged into our banking portal and systematically removed Samantha's access to everything. Credit card authorization revoked. Automatic payments canceled. PIN codes changed. Every financial connection severed. 30 years of enabling, undone in 30 minutes. The next morning at 8:15, my phone rang. "Dad, what have you done?" Samantha's voice was pure panic. "My card isn't working. The car insurance payment bounced." "What is happening?" "Samantha, I know you sent me that Father's Day gift." Silence. Then defensive fury. "How could you set me up like this?" "Not what are you talking about, but how could you set me up?" Her reaction confirmed everything. "I didn't do anything. I simply stopped paying for your irresponsibility." "Fine." Her voice rose to a dangerous pitch. "Don't expect to see your grandchildren anytime soon. Emma and Jake won't even remember you. Those threats stopped working yesterday morning, Samantha. The line went dead, but I knew it wasn't over. 2 hours later, tires squealed in our driveway. Samantha and Peter stormed to our door, fury radiating from them both. "We need to talk," Samantha demanded. "We already talked." I remained in the doorway, not inviting them inside. Peter stepped forward menacingly. "We know where you live, old man. We know your routines. You might want to reconsider your position." "Are you threatening me, Peter?" The confrontation ended with them leaving in rage, but their threats echoed. That's when I knew legal action was necessary. The next morning, I sat in attorney Margaret Summers' office and explained everything. The snake, the threats, the years of financial manipulation. "William, this is harassment," she said firmly. "We need comprehensive legal protection." Within a week, Margaret had restructured our will completely. All inheritance money now went into an educational trust for Emma and Jake, managed by an independent trustee. Samantha and Peter would have zero access. We also filed restraining orders against both of them. When those documents were served, I finally felt something I hadn't experienced in years when it came to my daughter. Peace. The quiet that followed was profound. No crisis calls, no manipulative texts, no threats about grandchildren. Our home became ours again. Our retirement savings stayed intact. Our marriage continued without constant stress. I had spent 3 decades confusing enabling with love, thinking that supporting meant paying for every mistake, believing that family meant accepting any behavior. The snake had been Samantha's final communication, everything she felt about our relationship contained in that venomous gift. But instead of breaking me, it freed me. Legal boundaries replaced emotional manipulation. Professional consequences replaced family guilt. I reclaimed my role as a father who loved his daughter enough to refuse enabling her self-destruction. Sometimes the hardest part of love is knowing when to say no, when to step back, when to let someone face the consequences they've earned. It took a snake in a box to teach me that lesson, but I finally learned it. Now Jessica and I live peacefully, protected by law from the daughter we raised who became someone we no longer recognized. The grandchildren are provided for through trust funds she cannot touch. And we sleep soundly knowing we did the right thing, even though it broke our hearts. That's my story. A Father's Day gift that changed everything forever.